It worked.
It says we're live. Yay!
It says we're live.
All right. Greetings, bosses. I'm going to give it a couple seconds and see if we have some people jumping on.
Awesome.
Make sure my sound is off.
This is a great topic.
It is.
Really
I'm
like
excited to talk about it. Yep.
Really like
It's gonna be
growth
a good one.
plans.
I know it's funny we only talk about this topic at this time of the year because we really should be revisiting more frequently our growth plans.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to dive in. And as
Okay.
people join, people can chime in. I see Jean Tate just chimed in. So good. So welcome, bosses, to Coffee with Christy and Crew. I'm Christy Grossman. I have Elizabeth Gilbert and Stephanie Brackett here with me. I think you guys probably know us by now, so we won't go through the introductions. If you don't know us, reach out and meet us because we want to meet you.
Definitely.
So today we are talking about the topic that you all chose in our poll, and that is growth plans. What is a growth plan? Why do I need a growth plan? How do I create one? And then we're going to brainstorm ideas. And so if you guys are watching, even if you're watching later, I want you to post your comments below because you probably have some great ideas that would help us as well. So first thing we're going to talk about is what is a growth plan? And it's funny because I have a coaching client that I've literally talked to for on this topic 3 weeks in a row. And he's like, I just can't get my head around what is a growth plan. So what would you guys do to enlighten him?
That's a great question. I don't know how many of you guys listen to Jordan B. Peterson, but he's pretty amazing. He has a pretty awesome podcast, and he's a clinical psychologist and has helped a lot of people. But one of his podcasts, he talked about, this is getting really big, but he talked about what's the meaning of life. And the meaning of life is to be better today than you were yesterday, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what a growth plan is. It can be as simple as just trying to be better at something every day than you were the day before. And I should never say I need to be better than Elizabeth is today or Elizabeth is tomorrow. I need to be better than Stephanie was yesterday, period. That's it. And that's what the growth plan.
The thief of joy, right?
Yep. And so that's what the growth plan to me is it's a system for creating a way for me to get a little bit better every day.
I love that.
Yeah. I think it's just choosing where you want to grow and how you want to grow. And like Stephanie said, how am I going to be, 1% better today than I was yesterday? And what can I read? What can I listen to? What can I experience that will help me get there?
I love that. I think about it as a way to get purposeful about how to get to our goals.
Yeah.
So this time of year, we're doing a lot of goal planning. And we have all these goals and we know our team has a 1-3-5, or our team has certain goals. And so I think about, okay, if I want to be the person who is leading that team at this new level, or I have a personal goal, I want to be a better mom, to my kids.
Right.
How do I have to grow personally? Because we have to start with us in order to achieve our goals. We can't just expect everyone else is going to get us there. So I would think about who I am and how I think probably has to change in order for me to do something at a different level.
Yeah.
So if you guys have other things you want to add, type them into the comments about for you, what does a growth plan mean? Anything else we want to kind of talk about kind of in general about around the general topic of that?
Maybe just mention that a lot of times when we were talking about this, sometimes a growth plan is how you're going to grow personally. And sometimes you're talking about how you're going to grow your business. Yeah. And so you can have multiple growth plans. And that's kind of why when I do my 411, I have a 411 that encompasses all 7 areas of my life: physical, spiritual, business, job. It's got relationships. It's got 7 areas that come from the Maxwell books, or it comes from the One Thing too.
I love that. I think Elizabeth's going to put that up when we talk about how we create one.
Yeah.
Hi, Rhonda. I see you. Elizabeth, anything else to add about what is a growth plan?
No, I think as far as executing it, it's just making sure it's on your calendar. I think, you know, we can put it in a 411, we can put it on a piece of paper, but if it's not in front of you somewhere, it's easily forgotten. And I know that's the case with me, which is why I quit reading Kindle books and started reading physical books, because when I see the pile on my desk of books I want to read next, it spurs me on to finish the one that I'm currently in, to keep moving forward. Because if it's on Kindle, I forget about them.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and when you have the pile on your desk, eventually the pile tips over and falls. So then you have to take action.
Read faster, Christy.
Awesome. So I think we kind of covered like what it is and why do I need one. Is there anything else on why do I need a growth plan?
Oh gosh, if you're not growing, you're going backwards. So not growing for me is never an option. That's just not an option in who I am, who I want to become. So if you're not moving forward, you're either standing still or you're moving backwards, and it's just not one of my belief systems. So I think everybody needs a growth plan for, and I mean, you can do one for anything really. I want to grow in my relationship with my husband, put together a growth plan for that. I want to grow in whatever it is.
Stephanie, do you use the 1-3-5 for that when you're working? Like, that's a great example. I want to grow in my relationship with my husband, and now I'm going to write up a growth plan. What would that look like for you?
Yep. So I use 1-3-5s for a project or for a specific big goal that I'm trying to hit. I get a little fuzzy when I try to use a 1-3-5 for my annual goals. Here's my big goal for my big goals for the year. I don't use a 1-3-5 for that. But if I'm like, oh, I want to get my operations manual done this year, I'm going to do a 1-3-5 around that. Or I want to build a relationship with my husband, I'm going to do a 1-3-5.
So for those who don't know what a 1-3-5 is, because it's not all KW
right.
people.
And I always call it GPS just because it doesn't have to be 3 and 5.
Yeah, 1 goal, 3 priorities, 5 strategies for each priority. So for example, let's just take that. David's not listening to the call, so we can do this. So let's pretend. As
far as we know.
I know. I might send him a link.
Yeah.
But let's say that. So I want to grow my relationship to my husband. So my 1 goal is to improve my relationship with my husband. My 3 priorities might be what?
Probably increase my listening skills during our conversation, like increase our communication and listening during conversations, to increase the amount of time I'm spending with him, and to trying to think of one more I could put in there.
I'll tell you one that
totally unrehearsed, you guys. This is what happened. Elizabeth?
Brainstorming.
So my rainmaker has a similar plan with his wife, and he has to do something nice for her every day. That's one of his 3, is to do something nice for her, whether it's unloading the dishwasher or telling her she looks pretty or whatever it is.
For me, those would probably be on the strategies.
Yeah.
Right. So the communication piece, which I mean, like, here, let's get super vulnerable. That's an issue for me. I'm a high D. My husband starts talking, I'm like, gone. What are you talking? So, and he'll be like, are you even listening to me? And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally listening.
Yes.
Not listening. So, I mean, that is something I literally am working on right now. And so my strategies for that are to make eye contact with him when he's talking to me. That would be one strategy, to put my phone away when he starts a conversation, like literally shut it and put it away. So those would be like the strategies. To practice active listening, ask him, tell me more about that. Or what I heard you say is, like, those would fall under strategies on increasing our ability to communicate well with each other.
I love that.
But don't get me wrong, we have an amazing marriage.
No, I know you do. I know you do. But that was a great example of how to go get really purposeful and how to use your 1-3-5 as part of your growth plan in order to achieve that goal.
Yep.
So let's back up to growth plan and go a little more aerial with, okay, I know I want to grow. Now what? Like, how do I create a quote unquote growth plan? What does that look like? And I know we all do this different ways. So like, what does that look like for you guys?
I kind of like the what do I want to stop doing? What do I want to start doing? What do I need to keep doing? Because that, like, there are things that I want to stop doing, like being judgmental. Like, how can I let go of those critical thoughts of myself and other people? But I also want to keep, you know, having a nightly conversation with my husband before we go to bed. So, and, you know, what do I need to start doing as well? Putting more money in savings. So that helps me decide what goes on the plan by answering those 3 questions.
I love that. So, and we want to take that into our business too. Those are great questions to ask yourselves. I like those questions to ask your team as well.
That's what we're doing at our team retreat this year. Yep.
Yeah.
And we do stop, start, more, less. We need to do more of this and less of this. And yeah.
Yep. Beautiful.
One of the questions that I like to ask myself when I'm working on my growth plan is, are there areas that I need to go from E to P, from entrepreneurial to purposeful? That have I achieved a certain level of success, or mastery is not the word, but have I gotten to a certain level by my natural abilities and I'm good at something, but that's not going to take me to the next level in my business or in my personal life? Like, where are those areas? So for example, I can like roll out of bed at 8 and still be at my desk at 9 and get all my work done. And if I want to go take my business to the next level, I'm probably going to be purposeful in my morning routine about getting up and journaling and doing things in the morning. And then I think the area that we miss sometimes is skills and habits. Like, we think about the things we need to learn, and that should be part of your growth plan.
Yep.
But are we also looking at skills? What skills do I need and what habits do I need to form?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually on my growth plan for this year. Sean, my mega, is he's extremely organized, really, really organized. And he read a book recently, and I don't remember what it was, but he rolled out a portion of it at the team meeting. And that was creating routines. It was all about routines. And so, or habit really. So he has a morning routine, a morning workday startup routine, an evening workday shutdown routine, and an evening routine. And so I've started working on mine. I'm really good and purposeful about my morning workday startup routine. I do the same thing every morning. I get in the door, I check my inboxes, I get my inboxes to 0. I look at my calendar to see what's going on for the day. I pull up my Brivity list of tasks to see what my workload's going to look like, pull up Todoist and see what that workload's going to look like. And then I go into my one thing. So I'm really purposeful about that. My shutdown's very similar. It's basically the same thing again. But on my growth plan, it's creating that habit in the wake up morning and the go to bed evening. And those are going to become my habits because it will be a routine. He's been doing it now for about probably 2.5 months. And I mean, he's pretty awesome. And he's been even way more awesome. He's lost weight. He's sleeping better. He's not stressed. I haven't seen him freak out or stress out in months, like months.
Yeah, that's huge in terms of our performance and how we show up for our families, how we show up for our coworkers. Yeah, so skills and habits, I think, are. Elizabeth, do you want to pull up that the 7 areas thing?
You know, I was looking for that, and I'm like, where did I put that? I swear it's in Drive, but when I look for it, let me look. Let me search.
Are we talking the 7 areas?
Yeah, I have it. Yeah.
We can come back to it.
Yeah.
I really like that framework for
I do too.
coming up with your growth plan to make sure that you're hitting each of the different areas, because although they're separate, we think of them sometimes as separate, like my work life, my home life, and yet they all intersect.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, I know where it is. It's in.
It's never.
Canva.
I mean, and it's funny because I was just talking to one of my coaching clients yesterday, and I mean, we all do this. Like at one point in fact, this year for me personally, the health area of my wheel went flat. I sacrificed that area to keep all the other areas inflated, and it's biting me in the butt now. I have to go back and fix that this next year.
Yep.
Right?
Is that now overflowing into your work area and into the other areas of your life? The fact that you let your health take a back seat?
For sure. For sure. I don't have as much energy as I used to.
Yeah.
I don't like getting dressed in the morning because I don't like how any of my clothes fit. I mean, it affects everything. I certainly don't want to look at myself in the mirror when I get out of the shower. I can tell you that right now.
I love your vulnerability. Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely.
For that.
Yeah. Oh, it's right here. Did you find it, Elizabeth?
I did, actually. I have it up.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So here it is. So this was directly out of the One Thing.
Page 114, if anybody has the book that wants to follow along.
There you go. And I just turned it into a wheel of life where you hand this to someone or yourself, and you just fill in, starting from the middle out, you're rating each of those areas of your life.
Oh, I love that.
So if you feel like physical health, is between a 0 and a 2, you just fill in that wedge. But if you feel like maybe it's a 4, you fill in the whole up to 4 or up to 6. So it kind of gives you an idea because you can actually see visually where you're.
Where it's not a circle. Yeah.
Right.
You're trying to keep it a circle.
Yep. Yep. And so you can start, and that's what I like about the start, stop, keep doing, is if something's already a 10, what do you need to do to keep it a 10?
Yeah.
But if something's a 2, what do you need to start doing or stop doing in that area to improve your score?
I love that.
And you can you can reassess every month, every quarter, halfway through the year. You can go back to this and go, is what I'm doing working? How do I feel about that area now?
I think that's a really good point. We were talking about that at the beginning of the call. Like, we set our goals and we set our growth plan and we do all this stuff, and we're doing it like in November, December, right? Because we're all excited about the new year. And by the way, we don't have to wait for the new year to start. Like, we can do this right now. But we don't go back to it, I don't think, and assess, do we have the right goals? Do we have the right things on our growth plan? And it's okay to make changes there.
Definitely.
Especially if something's not working. I mean, a lot of times you're like, I have this whole plan and I thought this was going to work, and this isn't working. Like, this isn't getting me to where I thought it was going to go. And you don't know until you try. And there's nothing wrong. It's never a failure to say, you know what, I'm going to reassess and reevaluate, because these action items that I created for myself, they're not giving me the result that I was hoping for. So I'm going to reevaluate and I'm going to redo it. And that's not losing, that's winning. Yes. That's growth.
Yes.
I love that. All right, so we have a question, let's see, that Joellen typed in. What would you say, or how would you rate job and business differently? Yeah, so on that wheel, we have one that says job and one that says business.
Yep.
We define those differently. Elizabeth, you had a definition.
So it's from the One Thing, and you have to remember the One Thing was written mainly for entrepreneurs. And for me, the difference is working in the business and working on the business. So business is working on the business. What's the overarching things you can do to improve your responsibility, your area of responsibility within the business? And then for job, what do you need to improve skills, habit-wise, to make it easier to do your job? So the actual tasks, which could be, maybe you need a second monitor at work. Maybe you need to get a new computer. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be something that you are improving within yourself. It could be your environment. So whatever you need to do to grow, to be better at doing your job on your day-to-day tasks.
So let's jump into then kind of ideas of what kind of things can go on your growth plan, because I think we get very kind of like the blinders on about, well, what does that even mean? Like, how? So when I start, I kind of go back and I look at what areas do I want to grow in, what skills do I need to develop, what habits do I need to develop, and then how am I going to go about doing that? Sometimes maybe there's a particular subject I want to learn about. And sometimes I know I need to learn, but I don't know exactly what I need to learn because I don't know what I don't know yet. So I might choose something bigger to like go to a big event where I'm going to get exposed to a lot of thinking on the topic, and then I can figure out what goes on my growth plan. So I kind of have broken down into 4 areas that I think about for brainstorming. I do, what things can I read and listen to? I do, what classes and events can I go to? What people do I need to get into relationship with? And what experiences do I want to participate in that will help grow me? So those are kind of my 4 categories, and then we can go down from there. You guys may have a different approach.
I generally I may have anywhere from 3 to 12 GPSs or 135 running at any given time, and those roll up into my 411 because the GPSs are not time sensitive at all. It's like I want to make the relationship with my husband better. Well, for how long? When? It doesn't end. So it's just, but then I have to be purposeful about when that happens, so that the strategies for that roll into my 411. So this month, for instance, in relationships, I'm going to work on active listening with my husband. That is my goal for the whole month, is I'm going to repeat what he says to me so he knows I'm listening to him. I'm going to ask, what does that mean to you? Or what does that look like? Or how would that feel? And so that's how I do it.
Do I get to call him on the 30th of the month and ask him?
You totally can. You totally can. I mean, that's literally been a sticking point in our marriage our whole time, is he's like, you never listen to me, which I do. I just don't acknowledge that I listen to. I mean, sometimes I don't.
Active listening.
I don't acknowledge. And so I have to work on that personally. That's growth for me. So, I mean, I have a 135 for getting back in shape, for losing the 50 pounds I've gained. That's a 135. And then it rolls into my hire a health coach, like those types of things that will help me meet those goals. So I may have, I don't know how many of you guys know Josh Stern. He's an agent out of Utah, but Sean and him are pretty good friends, and he has 3 or 4 different businesses. And he conferenced into one of our staff meetings about 4 years ago, and he told us he had like 35 135s.
Oh my God, that blows my mind.
So, I mean, he has like all these different businesses. And so he would just like come home from a big seminar. He'd go to the RATE seminar, which is Radio and Television Experts. It's one of the advertising companies we use. So he'd come home from that, and he's got like 15 different ideas of projects he wants to work on. He would just get 15 135s out and start sketching out how he wanted to execute the projects. And then he'd just have them there. And then when he decided, okay, this project is now live, it's going to go on my 411 and I'm going to do it in this quarter, he'd just pull that 135 in and start working on it.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a lot. That's too much for me.
So that's hard for some people, but for me, I like to break it down and say, okay, if I want to work on these 6 things this year, I'm going to do a 135 for all of them, and then I'm going to roll them into my 411, and this is when I'm going to do these 135s.
Yeah, I like that. So Elizabeth, anything else to add on process, kind of?
You know, I think this is where, if that's overwhelming to you, this is where the one thing can actually help, is to say, what's the one thing I can do for my health, such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary. And maybe that one thing is just drinking 2 glasses of water a day. If you're used to, right, if you're used to drinking 1 or less a day, 2 a day is twice as good, right? So I think taking something that an area that you want to grow in, and boiling it down to what's the one thing, what's the most effective thing, and just that becomes a habit, or that becomes the smallest domino you can knock over. I think you'll see significant growth because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to be a better leader, if that was your goal, like I need to be a better leader to my people. So what's the one thing I could do? It would be to start reading a bunch of leadership books to see how other people that are really successful leaders, what habits do they have? What skills do they possess? How do they treat their people? What kind of conversations do they have? It could be read 2 leadership books a month for the whole year to increase my.
So let's talk about that. Let's brainstorm, because I want everybody who's on the call, as you guys are working on your growth plans, like let's post them in the group. Like, here are some ideas. So I want you guys now, if you're on the call live, to type in, if I'm on this call and I'm working on my growth plan, and I'm thinking about category 1, read and listen, what books should I be reading that you have read that have really helped you grow in different areas. And remember, we're talking all the 7 different areas. So this could be health or spiritual or business or job. What books have you read? What podcasts are you listening to? Hopefully you're listening to The Leader Equation every Friday at 2 o'clock with Lindsay Soprani and I. So if you're trying to grow your leadership, we interview entrepreneurs and their shotgun leaders every Friday, Facebook Live in the Leader Equation group. What articles are you reading? What blogs are you reading? Hopefully you're reading Elizabeth's blog, theassistantfiles.com, and ours at Ops Class Coaching. But go ahead and post those in there. And while you guys are posting, what are you, Steph and Elizabeth, what are you reading and listening to?
I always have a running list of books to read and to-doist. Always. Like I just sent mine the other day to Melanie. I think she's on the call. We were talking about books. She finished her list of books this year early. So she was asking for more recommendations. But I always, like right now, I literally have 32 books on my list of books to read. So I'm constantly adding and checking off when I'm done with them. So, and it's just recommendations from people. Mike will come back from something with Gary Keller and he'll be like, Gary really recommended this book. It goes on my list. Like if it's recommended for someone I look up to, I'm reading that book.
So what were a couple of your favorite books that really helped your growth this year that people might want to think about putting on their plans?
Oh gosh. Okay.
I know you read so many you can't remember the names.
Yeah. I've just opened up my cupboard. All my books are up there. Good to Great was awesome book. And it's a classic. Like that's for company growth. Awesome book.
So I want to say one thing. When you guys are doing your growth plans, and you say, I'm going to read this book or I'm going to go to this class. If you start reading it and it's not your book, don't feel bad to put it down. Because I will tell you, Good to Great, not my favorite book.
And I loved it. That's funny.
I forced myself to read it and it wasn't my book. So what else?
Dare to Lead by Brene Brown was amazing. Loved that book. I mean, I told Melanie, I'm like, you have to read the story about her husband and their birth and a party they were doing, a progressive party. I laughed for like 20 minutes after I read it. It was hilarious.
Yes.
So good. Let's see. Atomic Habits was amazing. Love that book. Power of Moments was awesome. I talked about that in the retreat.
So those of you who were at the retreat, and Steph shared her awesome onboarding program with their wow moments, that kind of came a little bit from that book, right?
Yep, that came from that book. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. I have so many books up here. The One Thing I've read again. I read it every single year.
People are asking another question. Tony, great question. She said, one thing I've started to realize with several admin in our market center is they have a lot of self-doubt, me included. So what are some books and podcasts that are good for self-love and confidence?
The one that I'm reading right now is
Introvert
Power.
What is it?
Introvert Power.
Oh, I loved that book.
Amazing. Like,
and I didn't read that because I'm not an introvert. So.
And a lot of us are, which is why I think some of us have that lack of confidence. Yeah. Because we feel like we're quiet and we're not as I don't want to say in your face, not as outspoken, right? And introvert power like totally gives you that confidence. Half of the world is actually introvert. They've done more studies and they have discovered that half of the world is actually introvert. So just knowing that was phenomenal. So that's
I actually really liked You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. Like that was a great book. It's a really good book. Yep.
Okay, perfect. What about podcasts? Are you guys podcast listeners?
Yep, I listen to the One Thing podcast. Of course, I listen to Leader Equation. I also, Jordan B. Peterson, just amazing, like really, really good stuff. And he has a ton of them. The one I was talking about earlier, he was actually interviewed by Dr. Oz, who, by the way, if you're working on active listening skills, go listen to that and listen to Dr. Oz and how he's just an amazing facilitator of this podcast. Really good.
We could all use listening skills in the whole world.
Gosh. Mine has been actually the Life Coach School podcast. Like her whole podcast is about mindset and how your thoughts control all of your results, because thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to, let's see, thoughts, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results, right? And it's all in how we think about the things that happen to us that create the results in our life. And I've gone all the way back to number 1, and she's on like some crazy number now, like 250. And I actually went all the way back to 1 and started listening from the beginning. She actually has an entire weight loss series as well, because she teaches about weight loss, and she teaches how to stop drinking.
Adding to my growth plan now.
That's what you want to do. And what's awesome is she talks a lot about building businesses, because she also talks about her journey from starting the life coach school, training coaches how to be life coaches, and how she created that business from the ground up. So if you listen to it over time, amazing.
I think that's a really good point that you're bringing up. Another good podcast is How I Built This. And I think it's important for those who are operations people on the call, that although we are operations leaders, we need to learn to also think like our entrepreneurs and to really understand how to build businesses, not just real estate businesses, but businesses. Because I think of us, especially as you're rising up in leadership and ops, you are an intrapreneur. So you're building without the risk of the owner, but you're still a builder of the business as well as a protector of the business. Yep. Okay, good. And Tony said life coach school too. And then somebody said Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins is good.
Yep. So, okay. So classes and events. What kind of classes and events might somebody be putting on their growth plan? And if you guys are listening, chime in with what things you are putting on your growth plan for classes and events next year.
Lots of stuff. Obviously, Ops Boss Leader Retreat. Obviously, right?
Yes, and I'm fingers crossed. We're getting close to setting the date and booking the venue. We think it's going to be October 23rd to 25th. So block that on your calendar.
Yep. And then of course, like I always love to go to 1 or 2 KW events a year. So family reunion or mega camp, I go to either or. I don't usually go to both. I usually go to one or the other, and I like family reunion better. So I try to attend. If you guys
are listening and you're not with KW, this is an event. These are events that are open to all.
Yep.
As I think all the company conferences are.
I think so too. And then I just pick another one that I want to go to, either coaching skills camp or career visioning and the whole career visioning series. There's a lot of great classes that you can just attend. They cost money, but if you put it on your growth plan and you talk to your agent about it, most likely they'll pay for it because they're investing.
Generate a couple referrals and you'll pay for yourself to go.
Yep.
Elizabeth, anything you want to add for classes and events?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. I have in the past gone to some local stuff. So our community college has like an adult education program, and I've done photography class through that before just because it was something I was interested in. Something that I may end up putting on my growth plan for next year, because now I've gotten into mountain bike riding, is a skills camp for that.
Oh, that's cool. I love that.
So
and then of course attend anything you can in your market center. I mean, if it's coming to your market center, go to it. I mean, I've been to anything that's come. We've had Matt Fedek doing agent financials. We just had Tony Giordano that did 2 classes in our market center. I'll sign up for everything that's in our market center.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you can never go to too many classes. Well, you can go to too many classes if you're not implementing.
True.
I have a rule. You have to implement something within 24 hours of attending. That earns me the right to go to the next event or class. Yep. One of the most powerful ones that I've done over the past few years was Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. And I haven't done the personal ones, which is Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny, but those are great personal growth things. Also, something you might look at if you're looking to build leadership and or personal growth is Landmark Forum. And then there's also a lot of really cool things that you can do, like Ritz-Carlton has training, the Disney Institute has training, all kinds of big corporate things. I think sometimes we get real focused on the real estate training and events when we can learn a lot from other companies. Like, who's doing great marketing, go learn, from them, or who's doing great customer service. Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University, that might be a good thing to put on for events and classes. I would also say for me, regional masterminds are really important. Sometimes you're on a team and maybe it's not in your team budget to fly to Austin every year to go to mega camp and fly to family reunion. But if you check around your region or regions that are within driving distance, there's usually a regional mastermind that's a one-day event that is as good almost. It's like mega camp without Gary Keller, so it's still not quite as good, but the talent of the speakers is incredible. Maryland, DC, I would say, is one of the best if you guys are looking for that for next year. Okay, so let's talk about people. Like, what relationships might you need to get into in order to grow next year? What kind of people might you see on a growth plan? Steph, I know you have one you're trying to get into a relationship with in regard to your health goal.
Yeah, yep. And that's a coach. It's actually Lindsay Soprani's coach that she hired to help her with her journey of food hating her. And so, yeah, I signed up for the group coaching program in January, and I'm on her wait list to get onto her regular coaching program starting in February. So definitely a coach, a mentor, someone you really look up to that could be in or out of the business. That's a great relationship to add to your growth plan. I'm constantly looking for people that I think we could benefit each other by having a relationship. I'm not looking for it for me always. I mean, you've got to come from curiosity and from like actually wanting to provide value to someone else. And you always get 10 times more value back than what you provide. I think it's a natural law, right? Like, that's an earthly law.
Yeah, I would say too, being a mentor, like putting that on your growth plan, because when you mentor someone else, your growth shoots up as well.
Yep.
Totally. You read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Awesome. Mine was a financial planner. That's about right when I joined the team that I'm on now. Someone came to our market center for a lunch and learn, and it was a financial planner. And I contacted her and said, I think I really need to do something, with retirement. So my husband and I got on board with her, and we now have, life insurance, death and disability insurance, investments. I've watched our net worth grow over the years, so that's been fun. And that doesn't cost hardly anything to implement.
Yeah, I would highly encourage that too. I waited way too long because I had a drunk monkey on my shoulder that said, you don't make enough money. That's really pretentious to think that you need a financial planner. And then I realized if I got a financial planner, I could go E to P on my future and make things happen a lot faster.
Yep.
For me, over the past, a nutritionist has been someone that needed to go on my growth plan to work on getting healthier. You might need a personal trainer. That would be somebody. It could be maybe you want to be part of a networking group or some kind of mastermind group or an accountability group. Like Elizabeth said, I think when you're working on your leadership, if leadership is one of the areas you want to grow in, look for opportunities where you can lead outside of your team. So maybe you want to, just develop that muscle a little bit. See my muscles?
It's awesome.
There. How's that? But you could lead a mastermind in your market center. You could teach a class. You could, volunteer at the Boys or Girls Club and be a mentor to somebody. And then the other one I would add is, for me, that's been important over the years, is to find someone that can be a spiritual director to me, because that's an important area of my life. Anybody else have any people that you want to get into a relationship that might go on your growth plan? Whoops.
That was me. I was trying to see if there were questions and I accidentally clicked on the button to actually see it live. So
then the other thing that I like to think about is there's a lot of times where you like participate in something or you set a goal to do something, and being part of that experience helps grow you. Like, for example, do you purposefully place yourself in situations where you know you're going to be uncomfortable? Like, I need to get out of my shell a little bit more, so I'm going to join a networking group where I wouldn't necessarily do that. Or here's one that I did when I was a kid. When I was in high school, I literally hate hospitals. Like, they give me anxiety. So I made myself volunteer as a candy striper so that I could get into my uncomfortable zone and be okay with that. So those are some experiences. What kind of experiences would you guys add maybe that might go on your growth plan?
We actually serve the fourth Thursday of every month at the soup kitchen. And that was something that we decided as a team would help us grow and not only give back to the community, but like actually, I mean, gratitude's one of our core values. And that makes us every Friday after the Thursday that we go serve at the soup kitchen, 95% of the team, when we stand in winning minute and share what we're grateful for, has something to do with the fact that we are so much better off financially and emotionally than most of the people that we serve at the soup kitchen. And we are full of gratitude for that. So something as simple as volunteering at the local soup kitchen is, I mean, we're actually serving on Thanksgiving Day this year because that's the fourth Thursday. So people are volunteering and giving up some of their Thanksgiving time with their family to go serve at the soup kitchen.
I love that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Elizabeth, anything you would add there?
You know, I've done something similar where you just have to make yourself get uncomfortable sometimes. And for me, it was just challenging myself that if I appreciated something about someone, to tell them, like, and use Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, because boy, if you think about it too long, you'll talk yourself right out of it. But even something as simple as, you know, telling a woman that you love her earrings, or, you know, thanking someone for holding the door open for you more than just thank you. Yes, Christy, your earrings are lovely today. But just kind of going out of my way where normally I wouldn't take the time to do that, or, you know, oh, they don't want to hear from me, they're busy. That's the negative self-talk that gets in the way of me doing the things that I want to do, which is to be more outgoing and be more outspoken. So, and saying something, giving a compliment or expressing gratitude is always appreciated. No one's ever going to say, get out of my face with that. So it's safe, but it's also pushing me outside my comfort zone.
I love that. Other ones that I've had in my class, people, I had somebody that climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
That's awesome.
And usually have a lot of people who commit to, I'm going to do a 5K, I'm going to do a 10K, I'm going to run the New York City Marathon or the Marine Corps Marathon. Yep. Another great one for me that I've done in the past was to serve on the Agent Leadership Council in my office. So that pushed me to grow my leadership and my influence, which, you know, obviously will help you translate back into your team. And I'm trying to think what else. I think volunteer work is just a great way to grow in leadership and grow in a bunch of different areas. I'm trying to think what else, other experiences. For me, travel has been a great one, to push myself to go to places that I haven't been before, or if you've never traveled, you know, say you've never traveled outside of the States, make a goal to travel somewhere where you don't speak the language. Maybe I've only traveled to places that speak English, and so now I'm going to travel somewhere where I don't know the language. I think those are experiences that really cause you to grow. The other experiences like the Marine Corps Marathon or the things that you're training for, I think when you do those, you develop new habits that roll over into other areas of your life.
Yeah,
you know.
For sure. Yep.
So what else? Anything else we want to cover with growth plans?
You know, it might also be just saying yes to an opportunity that you would normally say no to, and being open to that.
Mhm.
Trying something new that, you know, something comes your way and go, and, you know, if friends are signing up for it and that's not something you would normally do, what if you did?
That's funny. My dad came into town last night. He lives in Texas, but he came to visit. So we stayed up till like midnight talking, and we were talking about someone in my family that hasn't gotten a job, and he's like 26, so he's in that age where it's like, I don't know what I want to do, so he bounces around from job to job to job, and he's under the impression that he's going to find a job he absolutely loves. And I love my job, but I only love about 80% of my job, and the 20% of my job that I don't love is the area that I need to grow in, and then another 20% will show up that I need to grow in. And so I'm always only going to love 80% of my job, and the 20% that I don't love just means I haven't grown enough in that area yet. And it doesn't mean I'm going to end up loving it, but I'm going to end up being good enough at it that I can stop hating it.
That's good. Yeah. What are the areas where the light needs to shine, where it's a little dark? I love the saying yes to things. And I would even push that a little bit farther to, where can you volunteer to show up that you haven't shown up before? And I'll give you an example. Jean, I don't know if Jean is still on the call, but last year after the Ops Boss retreat, Jean Tate reached out to us and said, hey, I have an idea for something we can do at the Ops Boss Leader Retreat, and I'd love to present this thing on journaling. What was it? Journaling with art. I forget what she called it. She had a good name for it, but it was one of our creativity activities and vision activities that we did on our personal growth day. And I thought that was awesome. And we had 3 scholarship award winners who attended the Ops Boss Leader Retreat. 2 of the 3 nominated themselves as scholarship winners. Like, those are things where you can just step out. I just came back from a weekend 2 weekends ago. This is something that's on my growth plan every year, which is to grab a bunch of people who are high-minded thinkers and get together and mastermind for a weekend. That has totally changed my life, and I started doing it 5 years ago. And anyone can do that. If you don't know how to do that, just post in the group and say, hey, you know, who's thinking, I'm on a team of this size, I want to talk about this, and I live in this area. Is there anybody else that wants to get together? And people, I'm sure, will get together. Like, don't wait for the opportunity, create your own opportunity. So for me, that's always something on my growth plan. Jean says it was creative journaling with visual arts. Yes, thank you. Couldn't remember the title. So if you're listening and you have ideas for us for the retreat next year, send those in to me. I would add too that on your growth plan might be to do a 66-day challenge. Either participate with us in our 66-day Ops Boss challenge. And if you're not participating, it's not too late. You can still join in. We still have lots of time till the new year. Or lead your team in a 66-day challenge. What else do we want to cover? Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions, post them in the group.
I was just going to say, I just want to reiterate that it doesn't have to be something ginormous. Like Elizabeth said earlier, it can be something so small and so simple, but if it makes it better today than you were yesterday, it's worth doing. So don't think that this growth plan has to be like this massive thing where you're like, I don't know where I'm going to fit all this in. Mm-hmm. It can be so small. You could pick one thing in each area of your life and just say, okay, in relationships, this is what I'm going to do. In my health, this is what I'm going to do.
I would agree with that. I think, yeah, this time of year, we tend to get so excited about all the things that we're going to do next year. And if you can pick that domino, I like to build the small wins. So for me, for example, I love reading blogs and newsletters and listening to podcasts. Reading books is hard. Like, I have to really discipline myself. So when you say I've read 36 books this year, my mind is just like, I can't even do that. So I like to take build the small wins and build up to the big win. So figure out what that is in each area.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't remember, one of the 80 bazillion books I read talked about, setting goals. If you set a goal to lose 10 pounds and you only lose 8, you feel like a failure. But if you set a goal to eat 3 healthy meals a day for a week and you lose 5 pounds, you're like, woohoo, I won. So like set things that are totally achievable so that you can feel those small wins and not get discouraged. And I personally would much rather set goals on a quarterly basis than a year. It just works way better for me. And if you've read the 12-week year, that's how that goes. You set it for 12 weeks and then you have your 13th week to reevaluate and set your goals for your next quarter. And then you just do it quarter by quarter by quarter. That way you're not like, I need to lose 150 pounds or I need to lose 80 pounds. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get healthy. And for the first quarter, I'm going to exercise 30 minutes a day and I'm going to eat no more than 1,600 calories a day. And that's my goal. And the results show up when you do that. If you stick to those.
Jean asked a really good question. How do you handle failure? I've had a goal that had achievable steps and yet I failed to meet the goal 2 years in a row. How do you move forward when this happens?
You pick yourself up and you start again.
Get a coach or an accountability partner.
Yep. So we talk about that, right, in our Be a Boss class.
Totally.
10% of the success comes from writing down your goal. 10% of the success comes from having a plan. So I know I want to lose weight and I'm going to eat this many calories and exercise this many times a week. And 80% of the success comes from accountability. So if you don't have that accountability, and I'll give you a great example. I don't think Katrina's on the call, but Katrina Meistering was part of that original group that I gathered to Mastermind at the beach 5 years ago. And she had just had a baby and she said, I need to lose this weight to be healthy. And is it okay with you guys if I just text you a picture of my toes on the scale every morning so that you see what my weight is? And we were like, of course. And she's like, and if I don't text you, I need you to message me back. And literally, maybe only once we had to message her and say, you need to send that. But just the fact that she knew that she was going to be accountable to us, she texted every morning and lost the weight. So I would say add an accountability partner. I agree with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
With
Elizabeth
that.
and I were just talking about that the other day. We both have the same, what was it? Some sort of personality trait.
Yeah. So read the book, The 4 Tendencies.
Yep.
And it will tell you whether you're a person who can meet inner expectations or you can meet outer expectations and the combinations thereof. And yeah, Stephanie and I discovered that we're both obligers, which means if someone else expects us to do something, someone outside of ourselves, we can totally do it. We keep our promises to other people. But if we tell ourselves we're going to accomplish something, we're the first ones to just let ourselves off the hook and go, I wasn't going to do that anyway, or make up some excuse, right? It's easier to disappoint ourselves than it is to disappoint other people. So we won't hold our own expectations. We'll just let those lay flat and go, oh. But if we have someone else outside of us, an accountability partner, a coach, a nutritionist, weight loss expert, a personal trainer who is checking in on us, then we will meet those expectations.
Yeah. And yeah. I'm not an obliger. I'm a rebel. I love that description.
Go figure.
Yes.
Gee, what a surprise.
And it's really funny because there's probably a lot of us that have that exact same personality trait. Mm-hmm. And I will, come hell or high water, I will not let someone else down. I just won't.
Same.
But I mean, it doesn't, you could throw 18,000 roadblocks in front of me. If someone says, hey, I need this project done by this date, and then starts throwing roadblocks, I'll knock them out and get it done. I will get it done because I absolutely cannot let someone else down. Yep. But yeah. I self-sabotage myself and say, okay, I'm sacrificing these personal things of mine to fulfill these needs of someone else.
Yeah. And I'm the reverse. So I'm the rebel and I keep commitments to myself, but I still find that I get tired or I get discouraged or I just forget. So I have to put the accountability in so I don't forget. And I also have to put in small rewards. For me, it's all about okay, if I do it this many times, then I get to go buy that ring I was looking for. And it's not expensive things. Like you guys know all my bling. my bling is not real, it's not expensive, but it's fun and I enjoy it. Or once I do this that I have to do every day, I can go outside and take a walk and go look on my social media. So it's just rewarding myself for those small wins, and that keeps me going.
And that's actually a super important point you make about hitting goals, because you just talked about what drives you to fulfill your goals. So when you're building your growth plan, make sure that your growth plan is catered to what will be successful for you. Me just saying I'm going to lose 60 pounds, that doesn't, like, if I just said I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to exercise, I'm not going to be successful. Mine has to be, I'm going to hire a health coach. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have accountability partner. Yours would be, if you wanted to lose 10 pounds, like Christy needs to lose 10 pounds, but whatever. If she wanted to lose 10 pounds, it would be, she's going to get this or this or this reward. She's going to build the little rewards into her growth plan. Once you lose 2 pounds, go buy yourself this. Once you do this, go do this. So you have
to figure out what drives and motivates you.
And that could be like your one thing before you even write your growth plan. Figure out and do a self-eval on what actually drives you. Read the book Elizabeth talked about, or take the little quiz that Elizabeth, and then you can say, okay, I'm going to create a growth plan that I can win at.
Yeah. We'll post that later, the 4 tendencies quiz in the group. So people, I think it was actually posted in the group already. I think most people came out.
I think someone posted it. Yeah, that's where I got it. That's where I took it.
All right. So we have a couple last questions before we wind up. Melanie said, any tips on finding an accountability partner? I've tried 3 times and have not had great experiences. What do I need to be looking for?
I'll be yours, Melanie.
Woo, dude. That's pretty awesome.
Just
I would
shoot me
say
a
look
message.
for people who are on this call. If people are participating in this group and highly motivated and on this call, they're probably be good accountability partners.
I will tell you, the best accountability partner is the one that you pay. And it can be as not necessarily a punishment, but this is what I've done. So accountability partners don't usually work for me, because I usually choose someone like my husband or my best friend. And they are part of my inner expectations. So I can disappoint them and I know they'll still love me, right? So I had to tell my best friend, if I don't text you by 4:15 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday to say that I'm up and out of bed, I owe you $10 for each time I don't do that. So the accountability is on me to pay her when I don't do that. She's expecting that money. So now she has skin in the game that if I don't do something, she wants her $10.
So how much have you had to pay her?
$20. It's over a year and a half.
I love that.
So twice I didn't do it. Yeah.
One of my mentors on the spiritual side, I needed to have skin in the game. I wanted to pay like I would pay a coach.
Yeah.
And she said, no, like that's not, like, didn't fit with the whole spiritual thing. But what we settled on is that I would make donations to charities of her choice.
Cool.
So that worked for us. And then the last question, okay, Melanie said she just squealed. I think she's very excited. Tony's question was, would each of you mind sharing what your typical day looks like from the time you get up until the time you go to bed? I'd like to see how everyone is fitting everything in to stay consistent, even the weekends, maybe your time block. I think that's a lot to cover in the last couple minutes, but maybe we boil down that question to how do you stay consistent and fit everything in? What are your tips for that?
Systems.
Yeah.
And
So
what does that mean?
Go ahead.
So, I mean, it's my morning routine, which in my wake up morning routine that I just developed, that is my goal for this year for the habit, is to wake up. I have to go exercise for 30 minutes, and I do habit stacking, and I do, I can only look at Facebook if I'm on the treadmill. So my phone gets plugged in the bathroom. I don't charge it next to so I can only look at Facebook if I'm on the treadmill. So wake up, go exercise for 30 minutes, take a shower, and then 4 days out of 5 a week, I have a coaching call before I go to work. So I do my coaching call, and then I leave for work. I get to work, I do my morning startup habit, which is inbox to zero, check all my lists of things to do, check my calendar, move into one thing, do the rest of my stuff, my shutdown routine, which is check my email again, inbox to zero, check my calendar for the next day, make sure everything on Todoist is clear and everybody's clear, go home, eat dinner, spend time with my husband, we'll watch a show on TV or whatever. And then I do my nighttime shutdown routine, which is plug my phone in the bathroom, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, say my prayers.
Wait, you didn't say, when are you reading?
Oh, in the morning. I can do Facebook in the morning, or I can read. I generally would rather read than look at Facebook. So I may do Facebook for like 3 minutes, but I'm listening to a podcast or I'm reading a book while I'm on the treadmill. And I listen.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I listen to books on my drive to and from work every day.
Okay, so that's how you fit it in. Two people want to know, what is habit stacking?
Oh, so it's you stack a habit that you normally do with a habit that you're trying to create. So if I always wake up in the morning and immediately drink my water, that's just my habit, and I wanted to read, then I'd put my bottle of water on top of my book. So that's how you can stack habits together. Or if I brush my teeth right before I go to bed and I want to start flossing every night, then I would put my floss with my toothbrush, and then I just stack the two habits. So you stack something that you always do with something that you're trying to create.
I love that. And it builds.
Yep.
Yeah. Elizabeth, anything else to add about, like, how do you stay consistent? How do you fit it all in?
Let go of the idea that you have to do everything. Like, read the one thing again, like again and again and again, until that mindset becomes permanent. Because when you let go of the idea, and it's just an idea, that you have to do everything, all you have to do is the one thing, right? And the one thing is so small that other things happen on top of it without the effort and the frustration required to do all that stuff. So get the one thing done, everything else will fall into place, and let go of the idea that you have to do everything.
That's super. I think we saw that play out during our 66-day Ops Boss challenge. 66-day Ops Boss. But I noticed a lot of us, including myself, chose 2 or more habits to do the 66-day challenge. I'm going to do one in business. I'm going to do one in personal. And what happened was we sabotaged ourselves because it was too much. And so I said to myself mentally, okay, this is my one thing. And if I do the other one, great. And what I did actually is I chose the one thing. I've done it every single day. My second one that I chose, which was a personal habit, I put my husband in charge of it. I said, this is your habit to remind me to do this.
Right. And I think, honestly, if you would spend as much time figuring out what that one thing is, like as you do all the other busy work, you would be way more productive. It's figuring out, that's the hardest part. So if you can set time aside and say, okay, what is the one thing, and really, 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 and ask yourself, well, what would lead to that? Well, what would lead to that? Well, what would lead to that? How could you do that? How would that look? What would that look like? Really ask yourself a ton of questions, or go to someone who's a great coach or a mentor and say, okay, this is my one thing, grill me about it. And then they can say, well, what would that do for you if you could get that done? Or is there something you need to do before that you could do that? If you can spend as much time figuring out what the one thing actually is, that's when you'll see real progress, because you've finally nailed what that really is.
You're training your brain how to be more consistent. And if you can just get consistent on one thing, and train your brain how to get consistent on that, it will figure out all of the rest of that stuff to fall in line.
Yep. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us, all of you guys. I want to remind you, we're putting our class schedule together for 2020 for Be a Boss. We have classes in Virginia in January. We have New York and Atlanta in April. We have Las Vegas and North Carolina in May. We have South Carolina and Denver in June. We have the retreat in October. If you want the class to come to your area, reach out to me. We need advocates to take it to the offices and to the team leaders to see who wants to bring us in. I think we're about 40% booked, so we will start booking fairly quickly if you're interested in doing that. I know a number of you did that last year and it was really fun. And I think that's it. We're good. We'll put a poll in for next month's topic, but if you have ideas, just post them below. And thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys, Elizabeth and Sam.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.